I kept it to myself for a long time, but it's time to tell the truth. Rachel, my Rachel, the woman I built a life with, the woman I trusted with my secrets, my dreams, my heart, cheated on me. And not just with anyone. No, that would have been too simple. She cheated on me with a walking, talking gym meme named Brad. Brad. Of all the men in the world, she picked Brad. You know the type. Overinflated muscles, underinflated brain, a man whose entire personality revolves around protein shakes, gym selfies, and calling people bro unironically. If there was a thought in his head, it was probably bench-pressed into oblivion years ago. The betrayal didn't come in some dramatic confession, some late-night breakdown filled with guilt and regret. No, I found out because Rachel did the one thing I never thought she was capable of. She got sloppy. It was a Tuesday morning when my phone buzzed with a message from her. At first, I thought nothing of it. Just another reminder to pick up something from the store, or maybe a sweet, absent-minded love you, while she rushed between meetings. Then I saw the text. I can't wait for our next workout session, winking face. A joke, maybe? A playful message meant for me? That's what I told myself as I stared at the screen, my coffee growing cold in my hands. But then another message followed, a photo, one that left no room for doubt. Rachel, in a gym locker room mirror, wearing nothing but her sports bra and those leggings I always told her made her look amazing. Her lips slightly parted, her fingers tangled in her hair. And below it, a message that made my stomach turn to stone. Think you can handle me today? Face blowing a kiss. It wasn't meant for me. My hands went numb. My heartbeat slowed to something heavy and unbearable. I was still trying to process what I was looking at when another text popped up, this time from an unknown number. Damn, babe. You're gonna kill me in the best way possible. Can't wait to see you at noon. Leg day, and then round 2. Smirking face. And just like that, everything fell into place. Rachel wasn't just working out these last few months. She was working out. And Brad, dumb, grinning, permanently sweaty Brad, was the one spotting her. The realization should have sent me into a rage. I should have stormed into our bedroom, shaken her awake, and thrown her out of the house. But instead, I sat there, perfectly still, staring at my phone screen as if it had the power to rewind time. Because the truth is, the anger didn't come first. It was something worse. It was humiliation. I didn't confront her. Not right away. I could have stormed into our bedroom that morning, held up my phone, and watched the color drain from her face. I could have demanded explanations, screamed, broken things, made a scene. But that would have been too easy, too expected. Instead, I sat there, sipping my now lukewarm coffee, letting the betrayal settle into my bones like a slow-acting poison. Rachel always thought she was the smartest person in the room. Calculated. Precise. The kind of woman who could manipulate her way out of any situation with just the right mix of half-truths and doe-eyed innocence. But she underestimated me. She thought she was in control. I was about to change that. I took a deep breath, steadied my shaking fingers, and carefully archived the messages. I wasn't going to delete them. No, those texts were my ammunition. Proof of her infidelity, tucked safely away in the depths of my phone. Then I did something I never thought I'd have to do. I played dumb. When Rachel woke up that morning, stretching like a cat beside me in bed, I smiled at her like nothing had changed. I leaned over and kissed her forehead, even as the taste of betrayal lingered like acid in my throat. "Morning, beautiful," I said, my voice smooth, controlled. She hummed in response, sleep still thick in her voice. Morning, babe. Babe. The same word she probably called him. I forced a smile, letting my fingers trail lazily down her arm, watching as she nestled closer. My mind was already racing ahead, calculating the next steps. I wasn't going to confront her today. No, I wanted to watch her lie to my face. I wanted to see how deep this went. So I waited. At breakfast, I casually asked about her day. Anything exciting happening? I said over a plate of eggs and toast, keeping my voice light. She didn't even hesitate. Didn't even blink. Not much, she said, popping a grape into her mouth. I have a work meeting at noon, but other than that, just the usual. A work meeting at noon. I should have been disgusted. Furious. But instead, I was fascinated. She was good, so good at lying it was almost impressive. Almost. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. Nice. Hope it goes well. She smiled, completely unaware that I already knew exactly where she was going to be at noon. And it wasn't in a meeting. I waited for her to leave before I made my move. By 11:30, she was out the door, dressed in her usual gym outfit. Leggings, sports bra, that zip-up hoodie she always wore to warm up. She kissed me goodbye, and I kissed her back, tasting the deception on her lips. And then, as soon as her car pulled out of the driveway, I followed. I knew where she was going. I just needed to see it with my own eyes. I followed Rachel's car at a safe distance, my grip tightening around the steering wheel as I watched her weave through traffic like she had no worries in the world. No guilt. No hesitation. Just another day, another work meeting. Except, we both knew that was a lie. She took the same route she always did when she went to the gym. Left at the gas station, right past the coffee shop she never failed to mention in her Instagram stories, then a straight shot to Iron Core Fitness. Brad's gym. I pulled into a parking spot across the street, keeping my head low as I watched her through the windshield. She stepped out of her car, adjusting her hoodie, and for a split second, I thought maybe, just maybe, I was wrong. That she really was just here to work out. That I was overreacting. Then he appeared. Brad. The moment I saw him, any lingering doubts I had vanished. Tall, tan, and built like a man who feared carbohydrates, he sauntered out of the gym's side entrance like he owned the place. Rachel spotted him instantly, and that was when I saw it. Her expression changed. She lit up. Not the way she did when she saw me, but in a way that made my stomach turn. I watched as she looked around, checking her surroundings, making sure no one she knew was watching, before walking up to him. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to stay still. To wait. She reached out and touched his arm, laughing at something he said, her body language shifting in a way that felt so familiar. I knew that posture. Knew the way she leaned in, the way she twirled a strand of her hair when she wanted to seem playful. It was the same way she used to act when we first started dating. Brad smirked, flexing his biceps like a complete idiot, then glanced over his shoulder before nodding toward the gym's back entrance. Rachel followed him inside. I sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. This was it. The moment I had to decide what kind of man I was going to be. Option 1. I could storm in there, cause a scene, and let my anger take over. Option 2. I could be patient, gather more proof, make sure that when I confronted her, she had nowhere to run. I chose patience. So I waited. 20 minutes passed. Then 30. Finally, at the 45-minute mark, the door opened again, and Rachel walked out. Her hair was slightly disheveled, her hoodie now zipped all the way up, and her cheeks were flushed. She glanced around once more, making sure the coast was clear, then headed straight for her car. She didn't even look like she had worked out. Brad followed a few minutes later, grinning like a man who had just won the lottery. He watched her drive off before pulling out his phone, typing something quickly. A second later, my phone buzzed. Not a call, not a message from Rachel, but a notification. A backup of her texts had just uploaded to my cloud. And there it was, his message to her. You're amazing. Can't wait for our next session. Same time tomorrow? Winking face. I exhaled slowly, my heart hammering against my ribs. The game was on. I didn't confront her that night. Instead, I played my part. I smiled. I kissed her. I let her sit across from me at dinner, acting as if I had no idea she had spent her afternoon tangled up with Brad in the back of some sweaty gym. And she was good. Rachel talked about her work meeting like it had actually happened. She told me about some new marketing strategy they were implementing, rolling her eyes at how long the discussion dragged on. I nodded along, sipping my drink, pretending to be invested. Oh, and guess what? She said, stabbing at her salad with a fork. I hit a new personal record on squats today. Brad says I'm making crazy progress. I nearly laughed. Yeah, I bet you did. Instead, I played the role of the supportive husband. That's great, babe. Maybe you can show me sometime. She smiled. Actually smiled, like I was just another idiot buying into her lies. Of course. I had never seen her so confident. So smug. And that's when I knew. I wasn't just going to catch her. I was going to break her. Step 1. Divide and conquer. Brad needed to go first. Rachel was reckless, but Brad? He was stupid. A man whose entire personality revolved around the gym and his reflection. He wasn't the kind of guy who thought 3 steps ahead. He was the kind of guy who panicked when things didn't go his way. So, I decided to make him think Rachel was cheating on him, too. I created a fake Instagram account, complete with stock photos of an attractive guy, chiseled jaw, expensive watch, The kind of man who looked like he drove a sports car he couldn't actually afford. Then, I sent Brad a message. Hey man, I think we need to talk. No response at first. So, I sent another. You don't know me, but I know Rachel. And if she's been telling you you're the only one, she's lying. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Brad took the bait. WTF you talking about, bro? I smirked, typing out my next move. She told you she was at work this morning, right? Yeah? She wasn't. She was with me. Brad didn't respond right away, so I went for the kill. You really think you're the only guy she's sneaking around with? Come on, man. Don't be stupid. I've got proof. I attached a few photos I had edited, nothing too obvious, just enough to make him doubt. Rachel, in a coffee shop. Rachel, standing near another man's car. None of it was damning, but for a guy like Brad, it was enough. His next message came through almost immediately. Send me everything you got. I smiled. Hook, line, and sinker. Brad took the bait harder than I expected. The next morning, Rachel was in a mood. She barely touched her breakfast, scrolling through her phone with an annoyed little furrow in her brow. Every few seconds, she'd sigh dramatically, like the world was personally inconveniencing her. What's wrong? I asked, keeping my voice casual. She blinked up at me, her expression quickly smoothing into something neutral. Nothing. Just work stuff. Work stuff. Sure. I watched her out of the corner of my eye as she typed something furiously into her phone. No doubt trying to smooth things over with Brad. I already knew what was happening, of course. Brad had blown up her phone the night before, demanding answers, accusing her of cheating on him with some mystery man. And Rachel, who prided herself on control, suddenly found herself trapped in a situation she didn't understand. She didn't know who to blame. She didn't even know who to lie to. I could only imagine her mental gymnastics as she tried to figure out how to explain away her loyalty to Brad while still keeping me, the clueless husband, on the hook. She was unraveling. And it was beautiful. Step 2. Pour gasoline on the fire. I needed Brad to spiral. A panicked man makes mistakes. A panicked idiot makes public mistakes. So, I sent one last message from my fake account. Guess we both got played, huh? Maybe we should warn her husband. He seems like a good guy. That did it. Brad's reaction was instant. F*** that. She's not getting away this asterisk. I smiled to myself. Good. Now, I just had to sit back and let the chaos unfold. Step 3. The meltdown. That night, Rachel came home looking like someone had slapped her across the face. Her usual composure was gone. She barely met my eyes, her smile tight, her movement stiff. Hey, babe, she said, forcing casualness into her voice. Long day. I'm just gonna shower. Then she beelined it to the bedroom, phone clutched so tightly in her hand I thought it might shatter. I let her sweat for a bit. Then, as I passed by the bathroom, I accidentally caught a glimpse of her phone screen through the slightly open door. And there it was. A long, frantic text from Brad. What the F*** did you do? Asterisk. Who else have you been seeing? You're a liar. Don't ever talk to me again. I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing. She had no idea where the attack was coming from. No idea how to fix it. Rachel was drowning, and I was the one holding her underwater. Rachel barely spoke to me that night. She spent most of the evening glued to her phone, pacing the living room, typing furiously before deleting and retyping. Whatever damage control she was attempting, it clearly wasn't working. I watched her from the kitchen, pretending to be engrossed in a beer and the latest game highlights. In reality, I was savoring every second of her unraveling. Then, right around 10 p.m., she did something I had been waiting for. She grabbed her keys. I need some air, she muttered, avoiding my eyes. Going for a drive. Everything okay? I asked, feigning concern. She forced a smile. Yeah, just stressed. She was lying, obviously. She wasn't going for a drive. She was going to him. The best part? I already knew. The tracker app one had installed on her phone a few days ago, in one of those brief moments she left it unattended, was finally going to pay off. Step 4. Catch her in the act. The moment her car disappeared down the street, I pulled up the tracker. Bingo. She was heading straight to Brad's apartment. I let her get there first. Let her sit in her car for a few minutes, probably rehearsing whatever pathetic excuse she was going to throw at him. Then, I grabbed my keys and followed. By the time I arrived, she was already inside. I parked across the street, heart pounding, not with fear, but with anticipation. This was it. After weeks of waiting, after carefully setting every piece of this trap in place, The final act was about to begin. I stepped out of my car and walked up to the building. My hands were steady. My mind was clear. Rachel thought she was still in control. She had no idea what was coming. Rachel's car sat in the parking lot like a monument to her betrayal. I took a deep breath, savoring the weight of the moment, then walked toward Brad's apartment. The building was one of those generic, overpriced complexes that tried to look upscale but still reeked of cheap cologne and regret. Fitting, really. I could hear them before I even reached the door. Rachel's voice sharp, panicked. Brad's louder, angrier. "You're being insane," she snapped. "I told you, he's just a friend. There's no one else." "Bullshit," Brad shot back. "I saw the messages. Who the F*** is he, Rachel?" Silence. Then, her voice, quieter this time, laced with something almost desperate. "I swear, Brad, it's not what you think." I smiled. Showtime. Step 5. The knock that shatters everything. I rapped my knuckles against the door. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Silence. Then, the hurried shuffle of footsteps. The door swung open, and there stood Brad, his usually smug face contorted in frustration. The moment he saw me, his eyes widened. Confusion flickered, then realization. I could see the gears struggling to turn in his thick skull. "You," he muttered. I nodded. "Me." Before he could say anything else, Rachel appeared behind him, her face still flushed from whatever pathetic sob story she had been spinning. Then she saw me. And that's when it happened, the moment everything crumbled. Her lips parted slightly. Her pupil shrank. A single breath hitched in her throat. Fear. Real, raw fear. She knew. She knew that I knew. I let the silence stretch, watching the color drain from her face, then stepped forward, just enough to force her back. "Hey, babe," I said smoothly. "How was your drive?" She didn't answer. Brad turned to her, eyes narrowing. "Wait." Him. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. I stepped inside, slow and deliberate, letting the tension thicken like a noose around her neck. Then, I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. Swiped. Opened the texts. Turned the screen toward her. Her own words stared back at her like a death sentence. "I can't wait for our next workout session, winking face dot." Brad leaned over, reading it. His expression darkened. "Holy sh*t," he breathed. Yui turned back to Rachel, rage blooming across his face. "You said I was the only one." Rachel shook her head frantically. "Brad, wait. You lying little." I watched, amused, as realization crashed over him in waves. Brad might have been dumb, but even he wasn't dumb enough to ignore the evidence. I let the moment sink in, then leaned in toward Rachel, dropping my voice to a near whisper. "I gave you everything," I said, my voice eerily calm. "And you threw it away for him?" She swallowed hard. "You know what?" I straightened, pocketing my phone. "You two deserve each other." Then, without another word, I turned and walked out. The last thing I heard before the door slammed behind me was Brad yelling, Rachel crying, and the sound of my own footsteps, steady, powerful, victorious. I didn't look back. Not when Rachel called after me. Not when Brad started shouting. Not even when I heard something, maybe a lamp, maybe their fragile little illusion, crash against the wall. I just walked. The night air was crisp, filling my lungs with something that almost felt like freedom. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't drowning under the weight of secrets, of doubt of her. I had one, but I wasn't done yet. Step 6, the goodbye she never saw coming. Rachel didn't come home that night. I knew she wouldn't. By the time I got back to our house, I already had a plan in motion. I sat on the couch, pulled out my phone, and typed a message. "Hey babe, hope you had fun tonight. While you were driving, I went ahead and made things easier for you." Then, I attached a photo. It was of her closet. Empty. I had spent the past few hours packing everything, her clothes, her jewelry, her stupid little skincare routine that took up half our bathroom sink, into boxes and bags. Her life with me? Over. I had sinned. And then I waited. The panic texts. It didn't take long. Less than 2 minutes later, my phone started blowing up. "WTF? What did you do? Baby, let's just talk." I ignored them all. Then, I sent one final message. "Your stuff's at your mom's. Lose my number." Then, I blocked her. Step 7, the last laugh. Rachel didn't take rejection well. I knew she wouldn't let this go quietly. The next morning, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it ring out, then listened to the voicemail. Her voice was a mess of fake tears and desperation. "Please, just let me explain. I made a mistake, okay? But we can fix this. I still love you. I deleted it without a second thought. A few hours later, she showed up at the house. I didn't answer the door. Instead, I sat inside, sipping my coffee, watching through the window as she stood there, frustrated, confused, trapped in the mess she had made. She knocked, then pounded, then yelled. Then, finally, she sank to the doorstep, burying her face in her hands. For a second, just a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered the texts, the lies, the way she smiled at me while sneaking around behind my back. No, she made this bed, and now she could lie in it, alone. Rachel didn't just lose me that night. She lost everything. Her home, her stability, her control. But most importantly, she lost her reputation. Because I wasn't done. No, no, no. I wanted her to feel it. Step 8. Let the world know. Rachel had spent years curating a perfect image. The doting wife. The ambitious career woman. The one who had it all. I decided to introduce reality to her followers. I logged into my social media, our shared social media, and made one final post. A picture of us, taken just a few months ago. Happy, laughing, a couple everyone admired. Then, the caption. Funny how you think you know someone. Funny how love turns into betrayal. Funny how the woman I built a life with was having workout sessions with her personal trainer. Hope the gains were worth it, Rachel. I attached the screenshots of her messages with Brad. Then I hit post. The explosion. Within minutes, my phone started blowing up. Mutual friends? Stunned. Her coworkers? Mortified. Her family? Oh, they called. Rachel, of course, was the first to text. Delete that now. What is wrong with you? You're ruining my life. I smiled, sipping my coffee. I didn't respond. Step 9. The aftermath. Rachel wasn't built for public humiliation. By the end of the day, her social media had gone dark. She deleted her accounts, probably trying to do damage control. But it was too late. People knew. Brad. He tried to play tough at first, but the gym wasn't exactly thrilled about one of their trainers banging a client's wife. By the end of the week, he was fired. Rachel? She lost more than just her job. She lost everyone's respect. Our mutual friends? Gone. Her social circle? In shambles. Even her own mother called me. I raised her better than this, she muttered, shame thick in her voice. I didn't need revenge after that, because Rachel was already living in her own personal hell. And I was finally free. Rachel didn't give up easily. After the public humiliation, after losing her job, after getting kicked out of the social circles she once ruled, she still tried. She sent emails, left voicemails, even showed up at my office once, standing in the lobby like some sad, broken version of the woman who had once looked at me with nothing but confidence. I ignored it all, until the night she showed up at my door. Step 10. Face to face. It had been weeks since I last saw her. Weeks since she had been reduced to nothing more than a regret in my rearview mirror. I should have ignored the knocking, but a part of me wanted to see what was left of her. So, I opened the door. Rachel stood there, shivering, not from the cold, but from nerves. She looked wrecked. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair in a messy bun. Not the polished, put-together woman I once knew. Hey, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I leaned against the doorframe. Silent. Watching. She swallowed hard. Can we talk? I tilted my head. About what? Her eyes darted away, like she couldn't bear to look at me for too long. About us. I let out a short laugh. Us. There is no us, Rachel. She winced. I know I hurt you. You destroyed everything, I corrected. Her lower lip trembled. I don't know who I am without you. And there it was. The real reason she was here. Not love. Not regret. Fear. Rachel had built her life on the foundation of me. On the stability I provided. The unwavering love I had given her so freely. And now that it was gone, she had nothing. I crossed my arms, my voice calm. You should have thought about that before you ed Brad. Her breath hitched. Tears filled her eyes, but I felt nothing. She reached out. Actually reached out, like she thought she could touch her way back into my life. I stepped back. Goodbye, Rachel. Then, I shut the door. And this time, she didn't knock again. Rachel was gone. For real this time. No more calls. No more texts. No more desperate attempts to claw her way back into the life she destroyed. And me? I was finally breathing again. Step 11. Rebuilding. The first few weeks after it all went down, I wasn't sure what to do with myself. For so long, My life had revolved around her, making her happy, building a future for us. And then, just like that, there was no us. There was just me. So, I started over. I got a new place, smaller, simpler mine. No ghosts of Rachel lurking in the closets. No bed that smelled like betrayal. I went out with friends I had neglected. People who had been waiting for me to wake up and see Rachel for what she really was. And, for the first time in years, I focused on myself. Step 12. The universe has a sense of humor. One night, a few months after everything, I found myself in a bar downtown. It wasn't planned. I had just wandered in after work, looking for a drink and maybe some background noise to drown out the thoughts in my head. I was halfway through my whiskey when someone slid into the seat next to me. Is this taken? I turned, and for a second, my brain short-circuited. She was gorgeous. Not in a Rachel way. There was no practiced perfection, no carefully curated image. She was effortless. The kind of woman who looked like she laughed with her whole chest, who didn't check her reflection every 5 minutes. I shook my head. Nope. All yours. She smiled, flagging down the bartender. I wasn't planning to talk to her. But then, she looked at me again, head tilted. You look like you've been through some **T. I huffed a laugh. That obvious? She grinned. I have a gift for spotting the recently heartbroken. I smirked. And what makes you think I'm heartbroken? She shrugged. The whiskey. The way you're sitting like you're carrying a lot. And the fact that you've been staring at that glass like it personally offended you. I let out a real laugh. All right, fair. She extended her hand. I'm Natalie. I shook it. Nice to meet you, Natalie. And just like that, for the first time in a long time, I felt something I hadn't expected. Hope. The end. If you like this story, please like and subscribe to the channel.